my God. We are in India's Kaziranga National Park, one of the finest sanctuaries in the world. The park is home to the highest number of greater one-horned rhinoceros and a fascinating range of wild animals. Nature has painted Kaziranga with an amazing array of colors, which change dramatically with each season. Over the 3 seasons we spent filming in the park, we were fortunate to capture the best of the changing moods and colors of its landscape. It's early March. Pale, misty winters are slowly giving way to bright sunshine. Temperatures have already soared to mid-20s. Most of the tall elephant grasses, so lush and vibrant in the winters, have started to turn brown and burnt. While there is still water in many of the bigger rivers and streams, the park seems to have a parched look. The animals have retreated to shaded corners of the forest. The rhinos spend most of their day cooling themselves in water. The heat seems to be getting to them all, and tempers are frayed. Fights often break out over the best resting spots. As we watch, one of the male rhinos tries to get into the water, which already has another big male wallowing under a shaded corner. He immediately charges at the newcomer angrily, refusing to share his spot. The new entrant gives him a pleading look. It is really hot. But there is no mercy. So he slinks off to a far-off corner. There is no tree cover here, but he has no option. Job done, the big bossy rhino can go back to his snooze. Things get even more interesting. A third rhino has been watching from the nearby grass field. After a bit of hesitation, he also decides to move towards the water. But halfway through, he seems to lose courage and retreats. After another 10 minutes or so, he gives it one more go. But he makes sure to keep a safe distance from the big male who was first in the water and who perhaps is the dominating male in this territory. The second male, however, does not mind his company and readily makes place for him. Not too far off, in another stream, I watch a tiger cooling himself in the water. Suddenly, I see smoke rising some distance off in the jungle. The dry grassland is on fire. Summer is just around the corner. The otherwise lush green Kaziranga is already wearing a parched look. Most of the animals have taken to water to beat the heat. While we are busy filming 3 rhinos and their little argument in water, I suddenly notice smoke in the air. We follow the smoke, and once there, we find out that it is a planned exercise undertaken by the park management. Every year around this time, the dried grasses are set to fire. This serves a dual purpose. By burning the coarse dry grass, they are facilitating the growth of new shoots which are softer and more nutritional and preferred by the herbivores. With it, they are also attempting to burn down any unwanted tree saplings that may have taken root. The transformation of grasslands into woodland would be disastrous for many of the animal species, especially the rhinos. As we drive through the park, I see large tracts of land that have already been taken over by the cotton silk or the simli trees. This is a particularly tough species to control. Once it takes root, it spreads rapidly. It seems indestructible. Foresters regularly burn, chop, and uproot simli saplings wherever they see them, but the species keeps coming back. Elsewhere in Assam, it's a much sought-after tree. The state has a thriving cotton silk industry and heritage. But here in Kaziranga, it's a major headache for the foresters. Maintaining the grasslands while controlling invasive species of trees and weeds is a huge challenge. So annually, the grasses are set to fire in a controlled manner in different blocks of the park. Care is taken to ensure there are enough areas for movement, shelter, and food for the animals. As weeks go by, the burnt grasses start giving way to soft green shoots. With each passing day, the landscape is changing color. The weather is changing too. These are pre-monsoon days. Enjoying the milder weather is a colony of otters. It's a big colony. I easily spot over a dozen. Some are just quietly basking in the sun, while the younger ones are too restless and are having fun running around and chasing each other on the shore. Every now and then, they plunge into the water to grab a fish. There are plenty of fish in the waters to keep all of them happy. Kaziranga is a happy playground for a breathtakingly rich wildlife. Most of them are herbivores. There are a few bears and leopards, but they are largely inconspicuous and rarely seen. Yes, the 100-odd tigers of the park do make their presence felt. But they too are living in the shadow of 3 mega herbivores: rhino, elephant, and the wild buffaloes. Each weighing more than a ton. They are neither territorial nor predators. Is it one of the reasons why Kaziranga has such a captivating variety of wildlife? To be honest, I don't know. Soon enough, pre-monsoon clouds start hovering over the park and the surrounding hills. The first showers alert the animals to brace for the monsoon and the ensuing floods. Many of them start preparing for their annual trek to the highlands and the hills. Monsoon is the most difficult period for Kaziranga. The park is inundated with floodwater every year, forcing the wildlife to seek shelter elsewhere. This year too, the park is bracing itself for a tough few months ahead. It has been raining in the upper hills for the last few days. Floodwaters could hit the park any time. The onset of monsoon triggers a flurry of activity in Kaziranga. Frantic efforts are on to complete the construction of artificial highlands in the park, which can provide shelter to the animals when the water level rises. The entire staff has been put on a high alert. It's been raining in the hills for the past couple of days, and floods are imminent in Kaziranga. This very island on which I have been standing will go underwater in the next couple of hours, and so will all the other islands on the horizon. And all the wildlife which calls Kaziranga its home will be forced to migrate to those hills behind me in search of a safer sanctuary. Soon enough, the first wave of floodwater hits the park. Many low-lying areas go underwater. Gravel roads and muddy pathways can no longer be used. The range officer of the Eastern Range, Gunajit Talukdar, decides to bring out his specially designed vehicle Polaris to see if he can still reach some of the worst affected areas. We have gone barely a couple of miles when we come to the point where the road is underwater. And with every passing minute, the level is rising. Even if we manage to cross it now, Talukdar fears that by the time we return, it will no longer be crossable. Boats are the only means of transport that will work now. By nightfall, the then divisional forest officer of the park, Suvashish Das, gets news that some of the rhinos have strayed out of the park to avoid the rising water. A search is immediately launched to track them down. If the rhinos cross the boundary of the park, they are at a huge risk of being killed by the poachers. After a couple of hours of search, the missing rhinos are located in a nearby tea estate, grazing happily. Forest guards are tasked with keeping an eye on them the entire night and make sure that they either return to the park or safely cross over to the hills.
During this time of the year, when flood is there in the park, rhinos basically they stray out of the park and they will move around in this tea garden. And we have some sort of grasses here, so they will try to forage in there and they will not go back. They will stay here for some time. So we make sure that they don't get poached. Our staffs, they continue to stay in such tongis, we call it tongis. These are machans. These are makeshift arrangements, temporary, made during the floods especially.
While these rhinos have managed to find safety, many more continue to be at risk. In the past, most of the animals could move to the adjoining hills of Karbi Anglong during the floods. But that route is now full of peril. The corridors the animals used earlier are now dotted with tea estates, paddy fields, and the national highway.
So we are standing in the Panbari Elephant Corridor, and if you see, that is Kaziranga National Park, the fringes of Kaziranga National Park, and on the sides of it are the fields owned by the Panbari village. And because it's plain land, this is through which animals cross when there's a flood. When there's a flood, animals seek high ground, and high ground is the Karbi Hills to the back of this reserve forest. This reserve forest, which is part of the Tiger Reserve, is a very important corridor for animals to pass through. And you will see that there are vehicles all the time on this national highway. It's a national highway 37. And we have estimated there's about 230 vehicles per hour crossing, which means approximately 4 vehicles a minute. And therefore, at peak hours, when vehicles come, animals find it difficult to cross, and many times they hit also, during the flood especially.
Throughout the rainy season, hundreds of foresters fan out to various parts of the park to be on the lookout and help rescue any animals in distress. Small country boats as well as speed boats have all been pressed into service. Day and night vigil is being maintained. But the flood, which causes so much of devastation and disruption to the park, also performs a vital function of regenerating and cleansing it. It brings fresh water, minerals, silt, and new fish, while also ridding the park of bacteria and weeds. One animal in the park that enjoys the monsoon is the wild water buffalo. Not very glamorous or sought after, they seldom make it to the Big Five count of India's majestic wildlife. For the record, they have impeccable credentials to be in the limelight. With a massive and powerfully built body, this specimen is the largest bovine animal in the world. Even the best of predators would think many times before messing with them. Kaziranga tigers have occasionally tried, but only ended up paying a heavy price for their mistake. Estimates put their number at around 3,400 in the world. Of these, more than 2,500 are in India, and nearly all of them here in Kaziranga. True to their name, they spend most of their life in water. It keeps their body cool since they do not have many sweat glands. Like their more famous neighbor, the rhino, wild water buffaloes also have horns to be proud of. With a spread that can reach up to 2 meters, they walk the earth with the largest horns of any wild cattle. And Kaziranga is the proud home to this magnificent beast too.